Welcome to True Crime 101 with Murder Friends, the podcast where three friends from three different countries talk murder. My name's Anna, and I'm American.
I'm Alana, and I'm Canadian.
My name's Hannah, and I'm British.
In addition to our longer episodes, True Crime 101 talks you through key true crime cases and theories. Okay, so today I've got a bit of a special one. I sort of started out on this and didn't realize how big of a project it was going to end up being. But today we are going to talk about 10 shocking Hollywood crimes.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes. So it's not just murder, because I've kind of really researched and found other crimes. And what I did was I didn't pick the O.J. Simpson case, not something that we would maybe do a whole thing on. They're kind of not obscure crimes, but maybe lesser known ones. And so, and maybe ones that wouldn't take a whole episode to talk about. So I decided, I'll go ahead and do 10 of those. Well, I realized that 10 of those were still going to take a long time. So today, this is going to be part 1, and we will follow up next week with part 2.
Sounds good.
All right, so crime number 1. Do you guys know who Marvin Gaye is?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yes. So you know the song Sexual Healing. I'm not going to sing it for you, but it's quite a popular song. I'll spare you. And I don't know if you know this. Did you know that he was murdered?
No.
What?
Okay. Did you know that he was murdered by his father?
No.
No.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you about that crime. All right. So Marvin Gaye was an American musician who gained worldwide fame for his work with Motown Records. He was fatally shot by his father, Marvin Gaye Sr., on April 1st, 1984, at their house in West Adams District of Los Angeles, California. Gaye was shot twice following an altercation with his father after he intervened in an argument between his parents. The wounds were fatal, and he was pronounced dead on arrival at the California Hospital Medical Center. So I'm going to give you a little background here. Now, Gaye always had a bitter relationship with his father, Marvin Gaye Sr., since childhood. They always fought. They never really saw eye to eye. Marvin Sr. was a Christian minister. He was very strict disciplinarian and often punished them physically, all his children. He was also, which is an odd fact, I don't know, I only mention it because there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's great. But it doesn't fit in with the stereotype. He was also a cross-dresser. So
The father.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, which was widely known in the family. A lot of the children, especially Marvin when he was younger, he got bullied for it. I just found it I know it's very stereotypical, but it just was an interesting fact. So, fast forward through Marvin Gaye's career. After one of his biggest tours, or his biggest tour, the Sexual Healing Tour in 1983, Gaye returned to the U.S. to nurse his mother, who was recovering from kidney surgery, and moved into his parents' residence, a home which he bought for them in 1973. So it was a known fact that, unfortunately, Gaye was suffering from quite a bad cocaine addiction. So he had some drug problems. He wasn't necessarily in the best of mental states. And I can imagine, which you hear so often, touring doesn't help. And especially being a musician. And probably these things are thrown at you wherever you are. And it's not necessarily the best lifestyle for that when you have a substance abuse issue. So during his stay, his father was absent for the first part of it, but that October, his father returned from a business trip in Washington, during which he purchased insurance on his family's previous residence. Initially, Gaye's sister, Janine, and Ziola lived in the house before Marvin Sr. returned to the property and left shortly after due to the growing conflict between father and son. So obviously he's come back from this trip and they're not getting on. For the next 6 months, the two men struggled to keep their distance from one another. During one quarrel at the house, the eldest Gaye called police to have his son leave the property. After staying with one of his sisters, however, Marvin returned to the property, stating to a friend of his, "After all, I have just one father. I want to try to make peace with him." Janine Gaye later told a reporter that her father had told her if Marvin ever touched him, he'd kill him. So the father was already just not having it. In the days prior to his death, Gaye's parents had an argument mainly over the misplaced insurance policy that I mentioned earlier. The day before his death, the argument spread into Gaye's bedroom. And angered by his father confronting his mother, Gaye commanded Marvin Sr. to leave her alone. And he did comply with it, and he left, and there was no violence that night. But Marvin Sr. continued yelling throughout the house, and it was just a really toxic environment. At approximately 12:30 on April 1st, 1984, an impatient Marvin Sr. shouted at his wife about the document. Gaye shouted back downstairs, telling his father that if he had something to say, he should do that in person rather than yelling through the house. According to Alberta, Gaye's mother, when Marvin Sr. refused his son's request, Gaye warned him not to come into his room, and Marvin Sr., however, instead charged upstairs to the bedroom to verbally attack Alberta over the document, causing Gaye to jump out of his bed and once again order his father out of the room. When the ordering did not work, Gaye, enraged, reportedly shoved his father out of the room and into the hallway and then began to kick and punch him. Gaye reportedly followed his father into the bedroom and, according to his mother, continued to kick him brutally. Eventually, Alberta separated the two, and his father returned to his bedroom. But minutes later, Marvin Sr. entered his bedroom, returning with a .38 caliber pistol, pointed at Gaye and shot him directly in the heart. He then stepped closer and shot him a second time at point-blank range.
God.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific. So he was police were called, and he was arrested. And he went to court, and he actually received a plea bargain, which is crazy to me. So the judge, after considering the amount of drugs in Gaye's system and pictures of Marvin Sr.'s injuries during his final fight with his son, Judge Ronald M. George agreed to grant Marvin Sr. a plea bargain, and as a result, he pleaded no contest to a voluntary manslaughter charge. And on November 2nd, 1984, the judge sentenced Marvin Sr. to a 6-year suspended sentence and 5 years of probation. During the sentencing hearing, Marvin Sr. tearfully told the court, "If I could bring him back, I would. I was afraid of him. I really thought I was going to get hurt. I don't know what was going to happen. I'm really sorry for everything that happened. I loved him. I wish he could step through this door right now. I'm paying the price now."
But you're not paying the price because he doesn't go to jail?
You're not going to jail because you got a plea bargain. I don't understand. If I do realize there was this, so I'm not saying Gaye was in the right. He did obviously attack him too, and it got physical and violent. But he left the room. Leave the room. Lock yourself in a room. You don't come back and just...
Yeah, I think to, leave the room and then come back in with a gun and just, shoot someone straight away.
I guess if they were in the middle of a fight, and he grabs a gun and he shoots him, I guess maybe I'd see that a little bit different. It's the fact that he actually left, got the weapon, was out of the area, then came back, yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was... I don't understand how on earth, the judge would have thought, didn't think he deserved any jail time. So... that is the story of the murder of Marvin Gaye.
Wow.
I had no idea he was murdered.
No.
You know what? I didn't either. But obviously, when I started to go down this rabbit hole, I was like, wow, I didn't even know any of this. All right, so crime number 2. We all know Wynonna Ryder.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I personally love her as a child growing up in the 90s, and obviously how she has now come back and is on Stranger Things. Love it. Anyway, but there was a time where Wynonna Ryder was arrested for shoplifting. Now, do you remember this incident?
I do,
I think it was quite... Yes. Okay. So Wynonna Ryder, an American actress, for those who don't know, and a film producer. She is a recipient of Golden Globe Award and has been nominated for 2 Academy Awards, a BAFTA Award, and 4 Screen Actors Guild Awards. She's had a very long career. But on December 12th, 2001, Ryder was arrested on shoplifting charges in Beverly Hills, California, accused of stealing $5,500 worth of designer clothes and accessories at a Saks Fifth Avenue department store. She signed 2 civil demands. She was caught, and she signed 2 civil demands in the security offices of the store before she was arrested by the LAPD, binding her to pay for the stolen and surrendered merchandise. So the Los Angeles DA, Stephen Cooley, produced a team of 8 prosecutors and filed 4 felony charges against her. So obviously they were
felony.
like, okay, yeah. Well, I guess the amount of money brings it up to a felony. But he was clearly like, I'm making a friggin' example of you. to have 8 prosecutors working a shoplifting case. I mean, that just, I don't know, that doesn't really sit right with me. I get that, like, she shouldn't just get off with it, but, like, what other shoplifting charge for, like, I mean, I just think it's excessive. I don't know if they were just, like I said, trying to make an example of her. So Ryder hired noted celebrity defense attorney Mark Garagos. And Mark Garagos has represented, like, he represented Scott Peterson. Do you know the Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson case?
Ugh.
Yeah, he represented Scott Peterson. He's represented people like Chris Brown, like huge celebrity attorney, defense attorney. Negotiations failed to produce a plea bargain at the end of summer 2002, and that they noted that the prosecution was just like nope, they weren't going to offer her any sort of plea bargain at all. They weren't going to drop it down to misdemeanor charges. They were just like not interested. So she was accused, there's a whole trial, and she was accused of using drugs during the trial, including oxycodone, diazepam, and Vicodin, without valid prescriptions. She was convicted of grand theft, shoplifting, and vandalism, but was acquitted on the felony charge of burglary. In December 2002, she was sentenced to 3 years of probation, 480 hours of community service, and a whole bunch of fines, which I won't read out all of them, in restitution to Saks Fifth Avenue store, and she was ordered to attend psychological and drug counseling. Judge Eldon Fox reviewed Ryder's probation report and noted that she served 480 hours community service and all the felonies were reduced to misdemeanors in 2004, but she did remain on probation to 2005. So later on, Ryder explained that in an interview that the incident occurred during a difficult time in her life when she was clinically depressed. She also stated that heavy pain-killing medication that a physician prescribed, practicing what she called quackery, had prescribed her had significantly clouded her judgment. And actually, the doctor who did prescribe the medicine went on to like lose his license, and it was found out that he was like one of those doctors to the stars that just wrote prescriptions and all that. So he went down and he lost his license and everything like that. But yeah, so that was, I just remember, I want to talk about that one because I was trying to put one in that was just, it was so random. You know what, I remember seeing it on the news, like, what? Wynonna Ryder? Like, it was just a very random crime at the time. But it was obviously, she's gone on from there and received help and is doing much better now. Right. Crime number 3. Do you guys know, I don't know if you will, but do you know the singer Selena? Have you heard of her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like a word. So I used to love that song, Dreaming of You. I would like play it over and over again in my bedroom. Again, I'm not going to sing, but I used to love that song. Okay, so I think this is a pretty well-known one. Everyone sort of knows that she was murdered. And I'm going to tell you about what happened. So Selena was an American singer, songwriter, spokesperson, model, actress, and fashion designer. Her contributions to music and fashion made her one of the most celebrated Mexican-American entertainers of the late 20th century. Billboard magazine named her the top-selling Latin artist of the 90s decade. Like I said, that song, Dreaming of You, still love it. Selena and her family appointed a woman named Yolanda Saldivar, I can't speak today, sorry, as manager of her boutiques in early 1994. 8 months later, Selena signed Saldivar as her registered agent in San Antonio, Texas. And after the agreement, Saldivar moved from San Antonio to Corpus Christi, Texas, to be closer to Selena. In December 1994, the boutiques that she was running began to suffer after a number of the staff for both stores had decreased. According to staff members, Saldivar often dismissed employees she disliked and made erratic decisions. According to Selena's father, Abraham, the staff later turned their attention to him and began informing him about Saldivar's behavior. By January 1995, Selena's fashion designer, Martin Gomez, her cousin, Deborah Ramirez, and clients had expressed their concerns over Saldivar's behavior and management skills. So it appeared that Saldivar was she was almost obsessed with Selena, and she was also running her fan club. According to Selena's father, in January 1995, he began receiving telephone calls from fans who said that they'd paid for membership in the Selena fan club and received nothing in return for it. He began an investigation. So Abraham discovered that Saldivar had embezzled more than $30,000 via forged checks from both the fan club and the boutiques, which is accounting for why there was so many issues with the boutiques as well. He held a meeting with Selena on the night of March 9th to confront Saldivar. He presented Saldivar with the inconsistencies about the disappeared funds and told her that if she did not provide evidence that disproved his accusations, that he would involve the local police. He then banned Saldivar from having any contact with Selena. However, Selena did not want to dissolve their friendship. She thought Saldivar was essential to the success of the clothing line in Mexico, and she also wanted to keep her close because she did have things like bank records, statements, financial records, and stuff that she needed for tax preparation. Obviously, this woman was had managed to really make herself very essential in Selena's life.
Yeah, it's hard to have somebody so involved and then have to, like, try and get them out when she's, like, a part of so many different, like, bits.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was a thing, and I think a lot of the clients and the people who work at the boutiques and everyone's kind of telling Selena, like, hey, like, there's something not right here, like, things are wrong, and she just kind of wasn't, she didn't really want to hear it. And also, again, when you have someone who's tied in so tightly, it's hard to remove them. Saldivar delayed handing over the bank statements and financial records by saying she'd been physically and sexually assaulted in Mexico. Saldivar, along with Selena, appeared at a medical clinic on the 31st of March for a brief check by the doctor, and after that, Selena again met with Saldivar in her hotel room later in the day at a Days Inn in Corpus Christi. At the hotel, Selena demanded the financial papers. Obviously, she had just had enough. And at 11:48 a.m., Saldivar got a gun from her purse and pointed it at Selena. As Selena attempted to flee, Saldivar shot her once on the right lower shoulder, severing an artery and causing a severe blood loss. Critically wounded, Selena ran towards the lobby, leaving a long trail of blood. She collapsed on the floor as the clerk called the emergency services, with Saldivar still chasing after her and calling her a bitch. Before collapsing, Selena named Saldivar as her assailant and gave the number of the room where she had been shot. Meanwhile, Saldivar attempted to leave in her pickup truck. She was, however, spotted by a responding police cruiser, and she surrendered after a nearly 9.5-hour standoff with police and the FBI.
Oh, God.
But by that time, hundreds of fans had gathered at the scene, and many wept as police took Saldivar away. It was really emotional. Obviously, Selena was very, very young, early 20s. It was so sad and just senseless. It's just so senseless. Selena was pronounced dead on arrival at Corpus Christi Hospital. The attending emergency room physician decided to attempt to revive her. Cardiologist Louis Elkins continued the treatment and performed surgery based on the emergency room physician's decision. They were able to establish an erratic heartbeat long enough to transfer her to the trauma room, but after 15 minutes of surgery, she was pronounced dead from blood loss, and they were not able to save her. In October 1995, a Houston jury convicted Saldivar of first-degree murder and sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years, which takes us to 2025. She's she's up for parole, which isn't that long from now. So another thing about that was in 2002, under a judge's order, the gun that was used to kill Selena was destroyed and the pieces were thrown into the Corpus Christi Bay, which was a weird, I didn't know, the police did it and threw it into the bay.
I didn't know they did that stuff.
Also, pollution? No? I don't know. Is that a thing? We still do that sort of shit?
I wonder what else is in that bay.
I know, right?
A lot of pieces of guns.
Just loads of evidence in bags.
Yeah, no, it's just... It's we could just do, a true crime diving trip.
True crime scuba.
Scuba, there we go. Hey, guys, you heard it here first.
Business model.
Yeah.
Trademarked it.
Yeah, a lot of the fans and historians were disapproved of the decision to destroy the gun, saying the event was historical and the gun should have been in a museum. I don't know about that either, but...
It's kind of great.
It just seems I don't really need to look at it. I don't know.
That is really interesting, though. I always thought that she was murdered by, a crazy fan. For some reason, I didn't realize it was somebody actually, a business partner.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is I thought that further, too. But did you ever watch the film? It was, J-Lo's first film that she did, and she played Selena, back in years ago, and she was pretty good in it. She was good Selena. But yeah, the thing was, it kind of came out that Saldivar was like a crazed fan that wormed her way into like the business. It was just, but then you're like, then why did you embezzle all that money and like fuck it all up?
Yeah.
Talk about shit on your own doorstep.
I know, that's what I mean. Like, all right, guys, and this may be a bit of a trigger warning on this one. So, to anyone, we'll talk about sexual assault. So, anyone who might find that hard to listen to, you can fast forward through this bit. So, you guys know Subway, right? The sandwich place.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So, Hannah, I don't know if you're going to know who this person is. I'm wondering, because I tested it out on Will, and he was like, I don't know who this person is. But, Alana, you may know who I'm talking about, and that is Jared Fogle. Do you know who he is?
Yeah, he lost 200 pounds from eating Subway.
Exactly, yes.
I have no idea who you're talking about in this bit.
I know. I thought you might not, but this story is just, it was so shocking.
It's fucking
for anyone who is like, it is pretty grim. Sorry, Saws. Anyway, so Jared Scott Fogle is an American. He was a big spokesperson for Subway restaurants, literally from 2000 to 2015. So like anybody in like the North American continent like would know who this guy is because he had been on commercials for like 15 years. And what he would do, he was just like this real nerdy. I'm gonna put pictures on the social. Like real nerdy looking guy, basically, just real average looking guy. And he would like hold up his pants next to him, and he was like a third of the size of his pants, trousers, not underwear. That's weird. But like, it was, yeah. So people would know who it is. And like I said, I will post pictures. Like I said, he was a former spokesperson for Subway restaurants and now a convicted sex offender. After his significant weight loss attributed to eating Subway sandwiches, Fogle was made a spokesperson for the company's advertising campaigns from 2000 to 2015. Fogle first came to media attention in April 1999 via an article published in the Indiana Daily Student, written by a former dorm mate about Fogle losing 245 pounds by exercising and eating a diet of Subway sandwiches, which is wild.
Whoa. He lost 245 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah, you can only imagine what he was eating before. If he lost weight on Subway, like what was he eating before?
Exactly. The fact, like 245 pounds is already like an overweight human. Like you're already kind of, if you're 245 pounds, unless you're really, really tall, like a big dude, like that's a lot. Wow. Anyway, so subsequently, Fogle was featured in a Men's Health magazine article called Stupid Diets That Work. According to the article, Fogle had become obese at one point, weighing 425 pounds. So that's 193 kilograms through lack of exercise and eating junk food. Fogle changed his eating habits upon the switch to eating at Subway by eating smaller portions that were free of high-calorie condiments such as mayonnaise. While following the diet, he lost over the 200 pounds, and a Chicago area Subway franchise took Fogle's story to Subway Chicago's based advertising agency. So Subway is a franchise, but obviously I guess they'll do a lot of the same advertising. Fogle started to appear on commercials all over America. Like I said, anyone living in America or North America in those times, those 15 years, would just know exactly who he was because he was always on television with those stupid commercials. In 2004, Fogle established the Jared Foundation, a nonprofit organization focused on raising awareness about childhood obesity through educational programs and tools provided to parents, schools, community organizations. He would travel all over the U.S. giving talks at schools and other speaking engagements. So Fogle, who was obviously the pitch man for Subway at the time, was attending a health event at a school in Florida in 2007 when an incident occurred. Rochelle Herman said she was covering the event for a local station when Fogle made a random comment that, well, this is what she said, is he told me that he thought middle school girls were so hot. Ugh. I know.
Please no.
Then she said, I know, she said, I was in shock. I actually was questioning, did I really just hear what I think he heard? I looked over at my cameraman and he was just as astounded, she said. So when Rochelle Herman first heard the the J.R. Fogle's alleged off-color comments about young girls, she was so disturbed that she knew she had to do something, she said. So Herman, she did try to talk to Subway. It's alleged, because this isn't, like, proven. Try to talk to Subway and be like, yeah, you need to really watch out for this guy. Like, he's just said this. But they said, oh, well, he's not really part of, like, he's like a subcontractor of Subway. And he's like, so we can't really, like, fire him or something?
So
and
you
thinking,
just said
yeah,
subcontractor as in, like, Subway sandwich. And
oh, no. Sorry. Oh, my God. The ultimate pun. I didn't even realize it.
I'm so sorry. Okay, sorry.
Oh, God. I can't go on. So Herman then was, obviously, she was so disturbed that she notified law enforcement as well and called the FBI, everything. And the FBI asked her to wear a wire to record conversations with Fogle. So Herman saw Fogle numerous times over the years, and his comments and his admissions got more and more brazen. So I think what she did, which I won't go into, like, every single thing because it's really disturbing, but she kind of got close to him, and I think she didn't necessarily admit, like, yeah, I like young children, but she made him feel comfortable that suddenly he would talk about it. So he talked about sex with underage children. She said it was just something that he really, really enjoyed, she said, and, like, started to openly tell her this. For years, she said she worked undercover with authorities to gather evidence against Fogle. For years. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Like,
and having to listen to that stuff.
Oh, my God. She said it was just it's
but
horrifying.
She came home and, like, scrubbed her body with bleach.
I know. It's horrific. So she said, he trusted me for unknown reasons. He said to me numerous times over the course of the years about having sexual relations with minors. He got so comfortable with Herman, she said, that he included her children in the conversations. I think that's when she was like, okay, I'm done with this. I can't handle. Like, he wanted her to put cameras in their rooms. Oh, it's horrifying.
My God.
I know.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's really, really disturbing. Now, meanwhile, over this time, Fogle was married with children of his own. So, unfortunately, that wasn't enough, as the FBI needed hard evidence in order to put Jared away. It was only when Russell Taylor, who was the head of the Jared Foundation, and apparently he was actually also involved in a child pornography operation, and it was busted. His house was raided, and it was busted by the FBI, and they caught a break and managed to get what they needed to secure a search warrant for Fogle's house. So in July, I remember that was news, that his, like, head of his foundation was, arrested for child pornography.
Yeah, and a foundation that deals with kids, because of course.
With kids, exactly. It was just like, what? Yeah, it was crazy. But then it got worse.
How can it get worse?
It gets worse. July 7th, 2015, the FBI and Indiana State Police investigators raided Fogle's Indiana residence. Computers and other electronic equipment were removed from his house. The same day, a spokesperson for Subway announced that the company and Fogle had mutually agreed to suspend their business relationships. Yeah, okay. Subsequently, Subway removed all references to Fogle from its website. Following Fogle's arrest, the FBI also subpoenaed a series of text messages between Fogle and a Subway's franchise owner, Cindy Mills, with whom he was also having a sexual relationship with. And the messages, it basically, I'm not going to go into them, but it just made it clear that he definitely had already met young girls and young underage children and engaged in sexual acts with them, and they were actually able to get sort of some proof for this. On November 19th, 2015, Fogle formally pleaded guilty before federal judge Tanya Pratt. In a statement, Fogle apologized for his crimes, saying that he wanted a chance to become a good, honest person and redeem his life after being ensnared of a life of deception, lies, and complete self-centeredness. Now, I had to tell you this bit because I'd lost my shit. He had someone testify, a forensic psychiatrist, on his behalf, Dr. John Bradford, who testified for the defense team And he said that Fogle suffered from a compulsive eating disorder for several years before losing weight and replaced food with a sense of hypersexuality, which included mild, I'm air quoting, or weak, air quoting, pedophilia.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
mild pedophilia.
Substituting a big fucking burger with child pornography. Get fucked. No.
Yes. I know. How fucking shocking is that? That diagnosis was not accepted by experts in the psychiatry field and was criticized by Pratt everywhere because it's fucking ludicrous. Anyway, Fogle was sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in prison and is not eligible for parole until after 13 years. Good God.
Good.
That's horrible.
I don't think I've ever eaten a Subway sandwich sober. And I definitely haven't eaten one in daylight hours.
No, that's fair.
I think I've only eaten one between the hours of like 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.
So are they even open then?
Yeah, they used to be. We used to go to like a dive bar. I used to, this is when I was like 17, 18. And I used to finish work at a supermarket at 8 p.m. as far as doing my A-levels. And then I'd go home, have a shower, get changed, go out, get into this dive bar at like 10 p.m, dance and drink until like 4 a.m, come out, get a Subway, and then walk home.
Oh my God.
And then I used to have to be back at the supermarket at 7 a.m.
Oh my God.
I would die now.
Yeah, thinking about it now makes me feel sick.
Yeah. The things that we used to do when we were younger. Like,
Yeah, I used to walk home on my own at like 4 a.m. Ridiculous.
Oh God.
Anyway.
All right, so the last one, number 5, that I'm going to share with you today is, so you all know the basketball player Michael Jordan?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so did you know that his father was murdered?
No.
Did not know.
No. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you about that. I know it's not really a Hollywood crime, but it's sort of adjacent to a famous person. I don't know. I went with it. It was really sad because, well, I'll tell you. James Raymond Jordan Sr. was a father of Hall of Fame basketball player Michael Jordan. Jordan Sr. was born in Wallace, North Carolina in 1936. While attending Charity High School, he met Dolores Peoples, and the two eventually married, and they went on to have 5 children: James, Larry, Dolores, Michael, and Rosalind, and pretty much most everybody knows who Michael Jordan is. A lifelong basketball fan, Jordan Sr. played a large role in inspiring his son Michael to become an athlete and traveled to the United States to follow his son's career. First at the University of North Carolina when he played there, and then when he went on to play for the Chicago Bulls. It was summer of 1993. The Bulls had just won their 3rd straight championship, and Michael Jordan cementing his place as one of the greatest ever basketball players. So that was sort of like height of Michael Jordan's fame. Like, he was like in America. I just remember that time too. He was just, such a superstar. On July 23rd, 1993, while returning home from a funeral, Jordan Sr. pulled over on U.S. Highway 74 just south of Lumberton, North Carolina, to take a nap. Daniel and Andre Green and Larry Martin Demery spotted the car Michael had recently purchased for him, so a red Lexus 400. So at the time, it was a very nice car, which was just pulled over at the side of the road. Green and Demery shot Jordan to death while he slept in his car and then stole the vehicle. The men had no idea whom they had murdered until they began to stealing the dead man's, Jordan Sr.'s belongings, including 2 NBA championship rings gifted to James from his son. Due to using the cell phone in the car to make calls, the two ended up being caught quite quickly after the car was found. His body wasn't found, or Jordan Sr.'s body wasn't found until August 3rd in Bentonville, South Carolina swamp, but he wasn't actually positively identified until August 13th. After their arrest, Demery said that they had only planned to tie up their victim and that Green pulled the trigger for no reason. Both were actually convicted and sentenced to life in prison for this and other violent crimes. The accusation was based only on Demery's testimony. Green didn't testify at all, and defense counsel Woodbury Bowen said Demery had everything to gain by lying that Green was the trigger man, and that Green's testimony put Demery closer than he had earlier admitted. I remember when this happened. I remember this being in the news. I mean, I was like around 10, I think. But because he was such a big star, it was like a really big shock that such a brutal murder. And it was actually like completely senseless. Not that any murder is justified, but do you know when it's just something and it's just bad luck? Like you just pulled over
it's so
to
unavoidable,
sleep.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like a random crime that didn't need to happen. Or I don't think they actually, because there's conflicting stories from the two men, they don't necessarily know exactly like what went down, because one obviously sort of says the other one, and etc. And actually, in 2018, Christine Muma, executive director of the Center on Actual Innocence, said evidence showed Green did not commit the murder. Green claimed Demery merely asked him for help disposing of the body. On August 3rd, 2018, the Superior Court Judge Winston Gilchrist ruled on several motions and set a hearing. On the 5th of December, Muma asked Gilchrist to allow a closer look at evidence that could lead to a new trial, but he said that he finally ruled in March 2019 and said that he would not grant Green another hearing and a new trial. So Dolores, James's wife, went on to run the James R. Jordan Foundation, which was started in 2000, in his honor as a way to carry on his legacy and give back to underprivileged youth. So that was just so sad because it was probably one of the things that, like I said, it was just so senseless.
Yeah, and you think over a car, you know, like just a car.
Yeah, and in the end, they just got rid of the car, obviously, because they committed a murder then. So they just stole his things, then realized, who they actually killed. Not that that matters. It wouldn't matter if he was, who it was. It was still really horrible. But anyway, because that happened when I was so young, I wanted to look into it because I couldn't remember or I never really knew what actually happened or anything like that. But it was always known that his dad was murdered. But yeah, it was really sad.
That's awful.
Those are my first 5 crimes, and hopefully you learned something new about those if you did know about them already. And what I'll do is next week we will go ahead and I will be bringing you part 2.
Awesome.
Right, so you can check out all of my sources. There are quite a few. They are going to be on our website at murderfriends.com. If you want to email us, if you have any cases you find interesting or shows or podcasts, anything like that, let us know, murderfriendspod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, murderfriendspod, or Twitter at murderfriendspd. And I guess we'll see you next time.
Bye.